Y'all think you know black history? Think your textbooks told you the real story about what black folks accomplished in America? Man, that's the biggest lie they ever sold you. I'm about to show you 10 rare photographs that will completely destroy everything you thought you knew about black history and expose the systematic cover-up that's been hiding our true legacy for over a century. Welcome back to Black History in Photos, where we bring you the real, unsanitized photos America doesn't want you to see. But here's what's gonna make you absolutely furious. These aren't just random success stories or feel-good moments. These are photographs that document black achievements so monumental, so revolutionary, so undeniably superior that white America had to systematically erase them from history books to maintain their fictional narrative about racial superiority. Every single image I'm about to show you represents a deliberate cover-up designed to keep you ignorant about your own greatness. Photo number 10 takes us to 1899 with this incredible image of Lewis Latimer in his laboratory at the Edison Electric Light Company. This photograph from the Queens Public Library archives shows Latimer working on the carbon filament that made Edison's light bulb actually functional. But here's the kicker that's going to blow your mind. Latimer didn't just improve Edison's design, he invented the process that made electric lighting commercially viable. Look at this brother's workspace in the photograph, man. That's not some assistant or helper, that's the chief engineer who solved the problem that had stumped Edison for years. Edison's original light bulb burned out in minutes because the filament couldn't handle the heat. Latimer invented the carbon filament process that made bulbs last for months instead of minutes. But here's what's really gonna make you mad. Edison gets credit for inventing the light bulb, but without Latimer's carbon filament, Edison's invention was completely useless. This photograph shows the real genius behind electric lighting, but somehow Lewis Latimer got erased from the story while Edison became the hero of American innovation. Latimer also drafted the patents for Alexander Graham Bell's telephone and supervised the installation of electric lighting in New York, Philadelphia, Montreal, and London. This man was literally lighting up the world while white inventors were taking credit for his innovations. This photograph captures one of the most important moments in technological history, and most people don't even know this brother's name. Number 9 shows us Granville Woods in his Cincinnati workshop in 1884. This photograph from the National Museum of American History archives captures the man known as the Black Edison, and this comparison isn't hyperbole. Woods held over 60 patents and invented technologies that revolutionized communication and transportation across America. What makes this photograph absolutely mind-blowing is the scope of Woods's innovations visible in his workshop. He invented the multiplex telegraph that allowed communication between moving trains, preventing countless accidents and revolutionizing railroad safety. He created the overhead electric trolley system that powered public transportation in major cities. He developed automatic air brakes that made train travel safer for millions of passengers. But here's what's gonna make you see red. Thomas Edison tried to sue Woods multiple times, claiming Woods had stolen his ideas. Every single time, the courts ruled in Woods' favor because his innovations were clearly superior to anything Edison had produced. Edison was so threatened by Woods' genius that he offered him a job just to control his patents. Look at the complexity of the equipment in this photograph. Woods wasn't just tinkering with simple devices. He was engineering sophisticated systems that required advanced understanding of electricity, mechanics, and physics. This man was operating at a level of technical innovation that most white inventors couldn't comprehend, yet he's been systematically erased from American innovation history. Photo number 8 takes us to 1925 with this stunning image of Bessie Coleman standing next to her Curtiss JN-4 aircraft. This photograph from the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum archives shows the world's first licensed black pilot, but calling her just a pilot is like calling Einstein just a math teacher. Coleman didn't just learn to fly, she became an international aviation sensation who performed stunts that male pilots were afraid to attempt. But here's what's gonna blow your mind about this photograph. Coleman had to go to France to get her pilot's license because American flight schools refused to train black students, and especially refused to train black women. Look at Coleman's confidence in this photograph, standing next to an aircraft that she commanded better than most male pilots of her era. She was performing barrel rolls, loop-the-loops, and figure-8 maneuvers that drew crowds of thousands. She was planning to start a flight school for black aviators and was working to break down barriers in American aviation. But here's the tragedy that's gonna make you furious. Coleman died in 1926 when her mechanic, a white man, failed to properly secure a wrench that jammed her aircraft's controls. Some historians believe this was sabotage designed to eliminate a black woman who was becoming too successful and influential in aviation. This photograph captures a pioneer whose dreams were cut short by the same racism she spent her life fighting. Number 7 shows us Matthew Henson at the North Pole in 1909. This photograph from the National Geographic Society archives captures the moment Henson became the first person to reach the North Pole, but you probably learned that Robert Peary was the first person to reach the North Pole. That's because white historians spent decades erasing Henson from the story. What makes this photograph historically explosive is the context of what actually happened during that expedition. Henson was the navigator, the survival expert, and the leader who got the expedition to the North Pole. Peary was sick and exhausted for most of the journey, relying on Henson's expertise to survive the Arctic conditions. But here's what's really gonna make you mad. Henson spoke Inuktitut fluently, had established relationships with Inuit communities, and possessed survival skills that kept the entire expedition alive. When they reached the North Pole, Henson planted the American flag because he was the one who actually made it there first. Peary arrived later and took credit for the entire achievement. Look at Henson's equipment and clothing in this photograph. That's not standard Arctic gear, that's specialized equipment that Henson designed and modified based on his understanding of Arctic survival. This man was operating at a level of expertise that made him indispensable to polar exploration, yet white historians turned him into Peary's assistant instead of recognizing him as the expedition leader he actually was. Hello family, please subscribe to us and leave a like. This tells the algorithm we're building a great movement. Today we're about to shatter every myth, expose every lie, and reveal photographic evidence that proves black excellence has been the driving force behind American success since day one. Photo number 6 takes us to 1943 with this incredible image of the Tuskegee Airmen's maintenance crew working on a P-51 Mustang fighter plane. This photograph from the National Archives shows black mechanics and engineers maintaining the most advanced aircraft of World War II, but the story behind this image is going to change everything you thought you knew about the war. What makes this photograph absolutely revolutionary is the level of technical expertise you're witnessing. These black mechanics weren't just changing oil and checking tires. They were rebuilding engines, calibrating instruments, and maintaining aircraft systems that required engineering-level knowledge. The Tuskegee Airmen had the lowest mechanical failure rate of any fighter squadron in the European theater. But here's what's going to make you absolutely furious. The military initially claimed that black men lacked the intelligence and technical skills to maintain modern aircraft. They said black mechanics couldn't handle the complexity of fighter plane engines and electronic systems. This photograph proves they were lying through their teeth. Look at the precision and professionalism in this photograph. These mechanics are working on million-dollar aircraft that had to perform flawlessly in combat situations. One mistake could mean a pilot's death, and these black mechanics had the best safety record in the entire Air Force. They were outperforming white mechanics while facing segregation and discrimination every single day. The Tuskegee Airmen mechanics developed innovations and improvements that were adopted by other squadrons, but they never received credit for their contributions. This photograph documents black technical excellence that was so superior it couldn't be ignored, even by a segregated military that wanted to deny black capability. Number 5 shows us Katherine Johnson at her desk at NASA in 1962. This photograph from the NASA History Office archives captures Johnson calculating the trajectory for John Glenn's orbital flight, but calling her a mathematician is like calling Shakespeare a writer. Johnson was a human computer whose calculations were more accurate than the electronic computers NASA was just beginning to use. What makes this photograph mind-blowing is the complexity of the work Johnson is performing. She's calculating orbital mechanics, re-entry trajectories, and launch windows using nothing but pencil, paper, and her extraordinary mathematical genius. NASA's electronic computers were new and unreliable, so astronauts specifically requested that Johnson verify all computer calculations before they would trust their lives to them. But here's what's going to make you see red. Johnson and other black women mathematicians at NASA were called computers and were segregated from white employees. They had to use separate bathrooms, eat in separate cafeterias, and work in separate buildings, despite being more skilled than most of their white colleagues. Look at the focus and precision in this photograph. Johnson is performing calculations that determine whether American astronauts live or die in space. Her work was so accurate that NASA used her calculations for the Apollo moon missions, but she was hidden from public view because NASA didn't want America to know that black women were the brains behind the space program. Johnson calculated trajectories for Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo missions, but she didn't receive public recognition until she was in her 90s. This photograph captures one of the most brilliant minds in American history, working in obscurity while white male astronauts became national heroes for missions that succeeded because of her mathematical genius. Photo number 4 takes us to 1955 with this powerful image of Rosa Parks being fingerprinted after her arrest in Montgomery, Alabama. But this photograph from the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office archives tells a completely different story than the one you learned in school. Parks wasn't just a tired seamstress who spontaneously decided not to give up her seat. What makes this photograph historically revolutionary is the context of who Rosa Parks actually was. Parks was a trained civil rights organizer who had been working with the NAACP for over a decade. She had attended the Highlander Folk School, where she learned protest strategies and civil rights tactics. Her arrest was a carefully planned act of civil disobedience designed to trigger a legal challenge to bust segregation. But here's what's going to make you absolutely furious. The myth of Rosa Parks as a simple, tired seamstress was created to make her more palatable to white audiences. The real Rosa Parks was a sophisticated political strategist who understood exactly what she was doing and why. She was chosen for this mission because she had the perfect background and temperament to withstand the legal and social pressure that would follow. Look at Parks's dignity and composure in this photograph. She's being processed like a criminal for refusing to accept second-class citizenship. But her expression shows determination, not fear. Parks knew that her arrest would spark the Montgomery bus boycott, which lasted 381 days and crippled the city's public transportation system. The Montgomery bus boycott was organized and sustained by black women who coordinated carpools, raised funds, and maintained community solidarity for over a year. This photograph captures the moment that sparked a movement, but the real story of black women's leadership and strategic thinking has been sanitized and simplified to make it less threatening to white sensibilities. Number 3 shows us Thurgood Marshall arguing before the Supreme Court in 1954 during the Brown versus Board of Education case. This photograph from the Supreme Court Historical Society archives captures Marshall presenting the legal arguments that would overturn school segregation. But the story behind this image is going to blow your mind about the sophistication of black legal strategy. What makes this photograph absolutely extraordinary is the level of legal genius Marshall is demonstrating. He didn't just argue that segregation was wrong, he systematically dismantled the legal, psychological, and sociological foundations of the separate but equal doctrine. Marshall's legal strategy was so brilliant that it convinced a conservative Supreme Court to overturn 60 years of legal precedent. But here's what's going to make you furious. Marshall had been developing this legal strategy for over 20 years, winning case after case that gradually weakened the legal foundations of segregation. He won 29 of the 32 cases he argued before the Supreme Court, making him one of the most successful attorneys in American legal history. Look at Marshall's command of the courtroom in this photograph. He's facing 9 white justices who had spent their entire careers upholding segregation, but Marshall's legal arguments were so compelling that he convinced them to completely reverse their position. This wasn't just legal advocacy, this was intellectual domination of the highest court in America. Marshall's victory in Brown versus Board wasn't just about school integration, it was the legal foundation that made the entire civil rights movement possible. Every subsequent civil rights victory built on the legal precedent that Marshall established in this case. This photograph captures one of the most important moments in American legal history, achieved by a black lawyer whose strategic brilliance changed the entire country. Photo number 2 takes us to 1968 with this iconic image of Tommy Smith and John Carlos raising their fists during the medal ceremony at the Mexico City Olympics. This photograph from the International Olympic Committee archives shows what most people think was a spontaneous protest, but the real story behind this image is going to change everything you thought you knew about black athlete activism. What makes this photograph historically explosive is the level of planning and coordination that went into this protest. Smith and Carlos didn't just decide to raise their fists on the spur of the moment. They were part of a coordinated movement called the Olympic Project for Human Rights that had been organizing for months to use the Olympics as a platform for civil rights protest. But here's what's going to make you absolutely mad. Smith and Carlos were immediately expelled from the Olympics, stripped of their medals, and banned from Olympic competition for life. They faced death threats, lost their athletic scholarships, and were blacklisted from professional sports. The International Olympic Committee treated them like criminals for protesting racial injustice. Look at the courage and determination in this photograph. Smith and Carlos knew they were sacrificing their athletic careers and personal safety to make a statement about racial injustice in America. They wore black socks without shoes to represent black poverty, and Smith wore a black scarf to represent black pride. The third athlete on the podium, Australian Peter Norman, wore an Olympic Project for Human Rights badge in solidarity with Smith and Carlos. Norman was also punished by his country's Olympic Committee and was excluded from the 1972 Olympics despite qualifying. This photograph captures a moment when athletes risked everything to protest injustice, and they paid a heavy price for their courage. And our number one photograph shows Malcolm X meeting with Martin Luther King Jr. in Washington, D.C. in 1964. This photograph from the Library of Congress archives captures the only time these two civil rights giants met face to face. But the story behind this image is going to completely destroy the narrative you learned about black leadership during the civil rights movement. What makes this photograph absolutely mind-blowing is the context of what was actually happening between Malcolm and Martin. The mainstream narrative portrays them as opposites, with Malcolm representing violence and Martin representing peace. But this photograph was taken just months before Malcolm's assassination, when both leaders were moving toward a more unified approach to civil rights. But here's what's going to make you see red. Malcolm and Martin were both evolving in their thinking and finding common ground on economic justice, international human rights, and the need for black self-determination. Malcolm had broken with the Nation of Islam and was developing a more inclusive philosophy, while Martin was becoming more radical in his criticism of American capitalism and militarism. Look at the mutual respect in this photograph. These weren't enemies or rivals. These were two brilliant leaders who understood that they were fighting the same system using different strategies. Malcolm's international perspective and Martin's domestic organizing were complementary approaches that could have created a more powerful movement. The tragedy that's going to make you furious is that Malcolm was assassinated just 10 months after this photograph was taken, and Martin was killed exactly 4 years later. Both men were murdered when they were moving toward a more unified and radical critique of American racism and economic inequality. This photograph captures a moment of potential unity that was destroyed by violence. So there you have it, 10 photographs that completely destroy everything you thought you knew about black history and expose the systematic cover-up that's been hiding our true legacy for over a century. These images prove that black excellence, black innovation, and black leadership have been the driving forces behind American progress since the beginning. But white America has spent generations erasing our contributions to maintain their fictional narrative of superiority. These photographs survived because someone understood their historical importance and fought to preserve them despite efforts to erase black achievements from the historical record. Someone knew that future generations would need visual proof of black excellence when America tried to minimize our contributions or claim that black success was recent or dependent on white charity. The next time someone tries to minimize black contributions to American history, show them these photographs. The next time someone acts like black excellence is a recent phenomenon, remind them that we've been innovating, leading, and achieving at the highest levels since the beginning of this country. The next time someone tries to tell you that black folks needed white help to succeed, show them Latimer lighting up the world, Matthew Henson reaching the North Pole, and Katherine Johnson sending astronauts to space. These images represent the systematic erasure of black achievement from American history, but they also represent the undeniable proof that black excellence has always existed, has always been superior, and has always been the foundation of American success. Every innovation, every breakthrough, every moment of progress in American history has black fingerprints all over it. But white historians have spent generations trying to erase those fingerprints to maintain their mythology of racial superiority. The real black history isn't the sanitized version they teach in schools during Black History Month. The real black history is a story of consistent excellence, continuous innovation, and constant leadership that has driven American progress for centuries. These photographs are just the tip of the iceberg, just a small sample of the evidence that proves black folks have always been the real architects of American greatness. But here's what's really important about these images. They're not just historical artifacts, they're weapons against ignorance, tools for education, and proof that black excellence is not the exception, it's the rule. Every time you see these photographs, remember that behind each image is a story of Black genius that was hidden, Black achievement that was stolen, and Black leadership that was erased. These 10 photographs represent thousands of Black innovators, leaders, and achievers whose stories have been buried by a system that couldn't handle the truth about Black superiority. But we have the receipts now, we have the proof, and we have the responsibility to make sure these stories are never forgotten again. Man, I'm telling you, putting together this video had me going through every emotion possible. You want to know why? Because every single one of these photographs represents Black excellence that was systematically erased, Black genius that was deliberately hidden, and Black achievement that was stolen and credited to white folks who didn't deserve the recognition. Look, I need y'all to understand something that's going to change how you see everything. This ain't just about correcting historical records or giving credit where credit is due. This is about understanding that the entire foundation of American success, American innovation, and American progress has been built on Black excellence that was hidden, stolen, and erased to maintain white supremacist mythology. You see Lewis Latimer making Edison's light bulb actually work? That brother didn't just improve Edison's design, he made electric lighting possible for the entire world. But somehow Edison gets remembered as the genius while Latimer gets forgotten. That's not an accident, that's a deliberate campaign to erase Black innovation from history. And Granville Woods? Man was literally called the Black Edison, but that comparison is backwards. Edison should have been called the White Granville Woods because Woods was the superior inventor. Edison tried to sue Woods multiple times and lost every single case because Woods' innovations were clearly better than anything Edison ever created. The disrespect is astronomical, but it's also systematic. Every single Black achievement gets minimized. Every Black innovation gets credited to white folks. Every Black leader gets erased or sanitized to make them less threatening to white sensibilities. But here's what really gets me heated. We've been accepting these lies for so long that we started believing them ourselves. We started thinking that Black excellence was rare, that Black innovation was recent, that Black leadership was dependent on white approval. These photographs prove that's all bullshit. We've been the innovators, we've been the leaders, we've been the geniuses driving American progress since day one. The only thing that's changed is that now we got the receipts to prove it. These photographs are evidence that can't be denied, can't be minimized, and can't be erased. Every time you see these images, remember that this is just what survived the systematic campaign to erase Black achievement. Imagine how many other stories got buried, how many other innovations got stolen, how many other leaders got forgotten. These 10 photographs represent thousands of Black excellence stories that we'll never know about. But we know about these, and that's enough to change everything. These photographs prove that Black excellence ain't new, ain't rare, and ain't dependent on white validation. We've been excellent, we've been superior, and we've been the foundation of American greatness since the beginning. That's our legacy, that's our truth, and that's what we need to reclaim and celebrate. Stop letting them tell you that Black success is recent or that we needed their help to achieve greatness. We've been great, we've been excellent, and we've been the real architects of American progress all along. Y'all stay woke, stay proud, and keep fighting for the truth. These photographs are our weapons against ignorance, our proof against lies, and our foundation for building a future where Black excellence gets the recognition it deserves. We out here, we've been here, and we ain't going nowhere. That's real talk, that's Black power, and that's how we reclaim our rightful place in history. Peace out, family.